Good evening and welcome to the regular school committee meeting. Today is June 27th, 2017. This meeting is being recorded by the Peabody School Committee's recording secretary. The matters listed below are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items may be in fact discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. Thank you. If we could stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we could, we'll start off with the approval of minutes.
Make a motion to approve regular school committee meeting minutes of June 13, 2017.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hockman, second by Mr. Rosenthal. On the motion, roll call.
Mr. Rosenthal?
Yes.
Mr. Olympia?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next up, approval of bills.
I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant A number 3492 in the amount of $90,545.90, subject to audit.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Olympio, second by Mr. Rosenthal. On the motion, roll call.
Mr. Rosenthal?
Yes.
Mr. Olympia?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant B number 3499 in the amount of $673,486.19, subject to audit.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Olympio, second by Mr. Rosenthal. On the motion, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Rosenthal?
Yes.
Mr. Olympia?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
Motion carries. Let's move on to continued business. The MSBA Higgins project is done, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Oh, one second.
Sure.
I can't write and speak at the same time.
Get your autograph.
Okay. The last month's Higgins School Building Committee meeting had a lot of updates. The status of the field, which people were concerned about, at that point they were 2/3 done spreading the mixture and 2/3 done on irrigation. The landscapers were getting ready to seed, and actually by the end of next week, at that time, the seeding would be completed on the field. And I'm happy to say that if you drive by and look, I can see some green, so I know that that's been done. The bioretention area is being seeded and mulched. And one of the things that people may see out on the west side of the building, those bioretention areas were seeded with a different type of seed that germinates much quicker, and that has been coming in. The rain right now is helpful, and they've been irrigating those areas. So those are all coming in. They've also planted, I believe they've completed the planting of all the trees on the site. So those have all been placed in. The field, depending upon how, the athletic field, depending upon how that seed takes, we're still looking at fall of 2018 to be able to use that field, but just so people know, it could be spring of 2019, and that's only so that we have a good, solid, permanent field. If we do have to wait, it will end up being worth it in the end because nobody wants to be playing in mud. And some of the irrigation that was being done out there was being adjusted to cover the softball field. So those types of things have been going on. Let's see. One of the other things that had come up, just a second. They've had, let's see, at that point, they had 68 truckloads of asphalt. I took down some statistics. They were having the first layer of the roads put in, the second layer will go in before the beginning of school. There's a lot of discussion about the bioretention area at the front of the building, and one of the things that's happened there are 4 different types of seed, and we will be working on an overall plan on how it is to be mowed and maintained. Certain areas of that bioretention area were designed to be very low maintenance. Right now, they're trying to adjust it to make sure that that is what happens, because I'll say it, it looks terrible. Everybody knows I don't like it. And it has to be treated properly in order to come to the point where the landscape architects are happy with it. Right now, they're not happy with it either. So maintenance is going to be very, very specific in that area. And part of the reason is because of the way that the seed went in. They do have to do some more work on that, and they are working on it. It won't be accepted by us until it meets the criteria of the plan. There were also some questions about faucets in the building. They were having an awful time with faucets, and they think it was something to do with the faucets that was sent in from the company. The company replaced them, and the company is actually probably coming out, it was either going to be this week or the week after the 4th of July. They will be coming out to observe those faucets, but they have not been accepted yet. They're not going to stay if they're not working, and the company was concerned about it too, because it was extensive throughout a lot of the faucets and the fittings and everything. So they are aware of it. They're taking very close watch on that. So the next meeting for the Higgins School Building Committee is actually scheduled for the 20th. However, that is probably going to be adjusted, and I will be putting out a memo on the new date. And that's only because of people being on vacation and the timing. So again, once that meeting is set, because it's public, everyone's invited, it will be here at 4 p.m.
Great.
Okay, and on a
Thank you.
Thursday. We'll stick with a Thursday. It's just the date may change.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn, for all your work with that. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Very, very interesting. And I will say this. If you drive out there now, you really can see the field. Last week, they just took down a couple of piles of dirt, and all of a sudden, you can see the whole thing. And it really is going to be beautiful for all of the city to use.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Dunn. Thank you again. At this point,
You doing finance?
do you
Yeah,
want to,
Mr. Chairman, if we could take the Finance Subcommittee report out of order without objection.
any objections? Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion, and we had an executive session right before this meeting, and I'd like to make a motion to ratify the contract of Unit C paraprofessionals. So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Olympio, second by Mr. Hockman. On the motion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Roziger?
Yes.
Mr. Olympia?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we ratify the contract with ASME General Local 364.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Olympio, second by Mr. Hockman. On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Roziger?
Yes.
Mr. Olympia?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
Great, thank you very much. Dr. Levine? Oh, I'm sorry. At this point, if anyone in the public would like to participate? Seeing none, we can move on. Dr. Levine, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I've said publicly on a number of occasions that I would put Peabody students up against anybody, anywhere, and they keep proving me right in a number of ways, academically, sports, but also in community service efforts, showing tremendous heart, kindness, and compassion, decency, everything that we would want to teach a kid through our school system that has nothing to do necessarily with academics. So a few months ago, I received a phone call from Isabella Valencia asking whether or not I would support a an idea that the students and Miss Gore, surprise, surprise, had thought about, and they were calling it the Bedroom Project. They wanted to do some community service, and they wanted to find a way to get into somebody's bedroom, a child's bedroom, and redo it, kind of like the show, you know, Move That Bus, remember? So we talked back and forth on a number of occasions and came up with a plan, and the Bedroom Project is now complete. So I would like to introduce the kids, and of course, Ms. Gore, to come up and say a few words about the project. Isabella Valencia, Tabitha Bona, Talia Cabrera, and I don't know if Marcelo is here?
Marcelo's here, yeah.
And Marcelo Roca. Would you come up and join us at the microphone? So I don't know if there's a spokesperson, but you guys can decide that yourselves, okay?
They'll point.
And I would like to introduce Abby Gore. Mrs. Gore, would you please say hello? Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gore.
Isabella?
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Levine, for introducing us. So this idea for a child bedroom makeover actually wasn't our idea. It was actually the idea that our predecessors came up with, former junior Rotary officers. And by the time it was my senior year, we decided that we had been putting the project or the idea on hold, and that it was time to sort of get it moving and to put it into reality. So one of the first things we did was we talked it through. We went through the logistics. We went through the feasibility of it. And then when we felt that we had sorted through most of the details, that's when I contacted you. And then I spoke to you at our meeting, and you gave me some very helpful tips, including some ideas about liabilities and how to ensure that the Peabody Public School wasn't held liable. We certainly instituted some privacy measures to make sure that the family and the child felt comfortable, considering that high school students were going to be entering their home. And so those are certainly some things that we put into consideration. And then from then on, we spoke to the General Junior Rotary members, and we went through sort of the budget. Because a project like this, you certainly need money to purchase items. And so once we found out that the girl was really interested in the colors pink and purple and the Patriots, that's sort of how we went about picking the items that we would get for the project. So we went through a solicitation list of businesses that we would ask money for. One of the students, Marcelo, actually donated some of his own money towards the project, so that was very nice of him. And then from then on, we ordered the items online through Amazon because it was very convenient, and a lot of the items there were inexpensive considering the budget that we had. And through frequent correspondence with the mother of the student, we were really able to make sure that we were giving her her daughter, the type of bedroom that her daughter wanted to have, and we wanted to make sure that we weren't overstepping any boundaries. And so later on, some of the people you see around me were actually able to go into the home and rearrange the items, and based on what they've told me, the girl was very happy and very pleased with the surprise. You guys wanna say something?
So some of the items that we brought in were, we actually had a handmade painting from you, which we held on the wall. We purchased a comforter set so we could redo. I thought that was probably the best way to kind of revamp a room when it was all like matching corresponding colors. And we went in with my friend here, Talia, and we organized kind of her bookshelf, and we redid her bureau to make sure everything, and we had a little stand that she had, like a little nightstand that was kind of cluttered, that we put all of her trophies and kind of some of her pictures that they seemed to be like more prized possessions that we showcased so she could see when she would wake up in the morning and stuff like that.
She was really pleased with it in the end. She was really surprised to see strangers in her house, but it was a good ending.
Just a quick question. How many visits did it take to get this all done?
Well, we got pictures from Miss Gelberg, her mother. We got before pictures just so we could get an idea of what we were working with. And we didn't actually visit the home until the day of doing the project. So me and Talia went in and kind of assessed it because it seemed like it was a small room to begin with, so we kind of knew what we were going into. And we took some after pictures after we finished.
Questions
Great
from the
job.
school?
Any questions from the school?
Just congratulations on a great job.
I have to add one thing, though, because Marcelo's being...
Excuse me, Ms. Gore, would you,
Come join us.
just for
Come
our
on.
viewers, we need to hear it on record, please, sorry.
You stood up, now you have to come over.
No, I just want to say that we didn't have the money for this. I don't want to be on the microphone. I know, I just want to talk to you. We didn't have the money for this, and Marcelo came to my room with his tax return money. He donated his entire tax return money to make this actually happen. And also, we have to thank Dr. Levine because he put everything in place on how to do, because we really didn't know the liability and everything that that Isabella had talked about, and they worked very closely. So it wouldn't have happened without you as well, but not to be understated that Marcelo donated tickets to Canopy Lake Park, and he put all the money together. So it wouldn't have happened without him. I know he's being very modest and very quiet, but it wouldn't have happened without him. And we want to do this every year. This was the first try, and of course it's a little difficult in the beginning, but we just want to be able to add on to this every year. But, you know, you can't ask for nicer kids than the Peabody kids. I just want, he wasn't going to say anything, and I wanted to make sure that.
Well, thank you, and thank you to the four of you for doing what you did and getting involved in your community. And you've heard Dr. Levine say that over and over. You guys are leaders, and you'll be leaders for the rest of your lives because of what you're doing here. You're starting here in Peabody, and wherever it takes you, it will. Hopefully, you'll come back after college and get involved in the community as you are now. But thank you so much for doing what you did. Appreciate it. Dr. Levine?
Thank you. Just through the chair, one added thing. My bedroom's looking a little shabby. These are great kids. Look forward to next year.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
Great job. All right, so that brings us to the superintendent's report.
Thank you.
Welcome, it's your show.
Thank you very much. I'd like to take a minute to introduce our new director of food service, Maureen Rose. Maureen, would you come up and say hello? While Maureen is visiting, she was the longtime director of food services for Brooksby Village, worked with a large budget of $1.5 million, came very, very, very highly recommended, especially by her present employer. They did not want to lose her. And we are very excited about what the future holds for our food service program. Maureen?
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be back in this district. I grew up in Peabody. I went through the public school system with my siblings. We all went off to college. I think the foundation we got in Peabody Public Schools, along with our parents' direction, gave us a great foundation. After college, I went off to work for hotels. So I did hotels for a number of years, and then I went to restaurants. I went full circle back into dining with Harvard University. I worked there for 6 years. I ran the quadrangle dining halls, and then co-managed the Annenberg Dining Hall for the 1,640 freshmen. I left that job only because of the commute was just too brutal. I was there for 6 years. It was fantastic. But that led me to Brooksby Village. So Brooksby Village, I've been there for 11 years. It went from, my restaurant was kind of disheveled. And when I came on board, we selected a team. We continued to hire students from Peabody, Danvers, Salem, giving them their first jobs. And the kids are great. I mean, whether they go on sports leave, or they go in the direction of health services, or they go into some other fields, they really enjoy working at Brooksby with the residents, and it's a great foundation for them to get to know what our elders know, and they know a lot. Leaving there was a tough decision. I only chose to do that because I'm going full circle in my career, and this is the only avenue I haven't touched yet in food and beverage. I've done retail as well. In both Harvard University, I ran the Solella store, and Brooksby Village, the Village Market. So when I saw the website posting, I said, this is destiny. This is fantastic. So I didn't know if I would get it because of internal candidates and things like that, but I saw it and I applied for it, and I was lucky enough to get a call. I'm very excited to work with all of you and work with Jared, Forrest, and Karen, Dr. Levine. I think this is going to be an exciting year. I have a lot of energy. I have a lot to learn. I understand that as well. I will digest that, and we'll come up with some plans. I know we have some budgetary issues, and we want to put out great food, and didn't look like there was a lot of staffing issues, so that's good news. However, I am excited, and I think that my skills are transferable, and I'm looking forward to a really exciting school year.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Dunwood, please.
Hi. I was thrilled when I read your resume and with what you're telling us, because, as you said, all of those experiences are going to be in our favor. You really, and obviously you have a lot of energy, so I think it's great. I think your timing was perfect, and I think that that's really going to help our food services move forward, and you know, the kids and the staff will really enjoy some very special meals. I think every one of us has had something to eat up at Brooksby Village, so we know it was outstanding. But just the fact that you've dealt with, you know, the college kids and you know, that college dining halls, and then the hotels and everything. It was amazing to see all the different things you've done.
We've also done catering. So at Brooksby Village, my restaurant was in charge of all the catering. So there was a catering manager, and they have to coordinate with myself and my chefs to deliver the product, whether it's to outside vendors, or to internal candidates, or to just for a regular coffee break. You know, we've done all things. They've done weddings there. Surprisingly, weddings actually happen in Brooksby Village.
Well,
But it's great, baby showers, so.
That's wonderful.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
No, that's
Anyone else?
great.
Just congratulations and welcome.
Thank you.
Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you, through the chair. Just some relatively quick items. Ask for approval of the field trip for the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School to Quebec City, April 6th to 8th, 2018.
Motion to follow the recommendation of the superintendent.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rossignol, second by Mr. Dunn on the motion. I'm sorry? I can vote. Yeah, I'll vote.
It's a quorum of the whole, you're fine.
Yep.
Mr. Roziger?
Yes.
Mr. Olympia?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Amico?
Yes.
Okay. I would just like to thank Jean Marchetti for a donation of $50 to the Christine Barbuda Garden Fund. Ask you to accept that.
Make a motion to accept with gratitude.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
Okay. In your packet, I wrote a new meal charge policy, and I'll give you a very quick reason why. It can be inconsistent sometimes, to nobody's fault, as to how we go about collecting payments in arrears. Very few, but sometimes, every now and again, a student may not get may be withheld a meal, and we don't ever want that to happen under any circumstances, because it's not the student who's in arrears, it's the parent or the guardian. So I would ask you to adopt this policy, which simply says from the school committee that it is our policy that no student under any circumstances will ever be denied a meal in school. And it talks a little bit about how we will go about collecting payments in arrears, but still assure that no student will ever be hungry.
Mr. Rossignol?
And I'm fully in support of this policy change, because I know sometimes people get behind. Who's going to be in charge of collecting payments that are past due?
That may change as we go more and more to POS systems.
Yep.
But usually, ultimately, it's the principal. Eventually, if you're going to contact a parent about something that might have friction, it's the principal that does that.
And through the chair, another question regarding the POS system. I know we've instituted it at the high school and we have it at the Higgins as well. Do we have a mandatory minimum that we try to maintain as a balance for parents?
Through the chair. We suggest a minimum, and we do notify parents when their balances are getting low.
I'm just wondering if we maybe increase that minimum and make it not necessarily mandatory, but on their card they have to maintain a minimum. So that way the chances of the student getting behind on payments and the parents not necessarily knowing that they're behind still have a little bit more leeway. So for instance, I'll use the transponder for tolls. You have to maintain a minimum of a $20 balance, and you get notified as soon as it's even remotely near that, so that you're actually always funding the account. I think if we establish a policy in conjunction with that to make a mandatory minimum for food service that they always have to maintain, I think that will lessen the chance of parents getting behind on that service.
I would be in favor of that as well. And on that as well, what is our policy right now if a student or their parents are delinquent or are behind in payments? What is the policy right now when a student comes up to receive a lunch and say they owe $15 or whatever the amount is, and what's the policy at this point? Are they given an alternate meal, or are they given that meal, or are they given no meal? I'd like to...
So the reason that I asked for this policy to be approved is exactly the question that you're asking, because it's inconsistent. And we want to make sure that it is consistent. And this sends a message to everybody. They don't have to question. They're not responsible for collecting the money. They're responsible for giving out the meals. So by this policy, every student will be allowed, if in a school that has breakfast, and certainly every school that has lunch, an FDA-approved meal, and will never be denied one, either breakfast or lunch, regardless of the balance of their account. The one thing that they won't be allowed to do while their balance is in arrears is to choose from the a la carte menu, which will have other things that kids may purchase. But they will always have an FDA-approved lunch or breakfast. And just to Tom's point, I think it's a good point. I would ask you to let me bring that to the principal's table at the next leadership team meeting, and then I'll have a recommendation of language to add to this.
Right. Yeah, because, I'm sorry,
Sure.
through the chair, because I do think it's two separate things, because I think regardless, things happen to families, and you never want to deny a student a meal, so that's why this policy is completely and utterly I'm in support of. But if we can make it so that it's almost like a tiered, parents realizing, oh, I'm starting to get behind on this, all right, I know I have next week to get it back up, and before they're even at a zero balance, they have a chance to kind of recover. So anyway.
I like that as well. On that consistency, can we implement in the policy where the FDA meal, as you mentioned, that's the meal that everyone else is getting, correct? Right. It's not a sunflower sandwich in lieu of pizza. It's what everyone, and that my point is, kid comes up, he doesn't have the money, his parents are delinquent in the account, and he's getting a sunflower sandwich when everyone else is getting, pasta and meatballs. I don't want that to happen. I want the student to not have to have that regret or feeling of, why am I getting this when everyone else is getting that? So if we could make that consistent. I'd really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Jared would like to jump in here.
Thank you.
Through the chair, I just wanted to clarify something that's so great about the POS system. Right now, they have you set a minimum and they get emails. So if the minimum is at $10 or $15, the ones that right now have our POS system, they get emails, basically harassed, put money into it, everything. So once
we don't want to use the word harassed, but
reminded.
Sorry. So that's a great thing.
He's tough. Mr. Rosenbaum.
Just on that point, so what is the minimum that is set right now where the email reminders would go out?
So the parent can actually set that. I think it
Okay.
defaults at $20, but yeah, the parent can set that.
So through the chair, in my will, I guess, would be if we should set that so that there'll be reminders going out to everybody and it's one set of rules.
I agree.
And through the chair, we do have help for families that need help.
Right.
We make certain that takes place as well.
And this really isn't for families that are on free and reduced lunch, that they're already kind of taken care of. This is really for, oh my God, I forgot to give Johnny money again for the third week in a row, just because of everybody's crazy schedule. That's what we're really kind of talking about here.
And also, on that point, it's also for things that happen. Life happens.
Absolutely.
You know, people lose jobs, people get sick,
Sure.
you know, substance abuse, whatever it may be. So we never want to put that child in that place where they have to feel bad about getting a lunch.
Right.
I mean, so thank you.
So again, through the chair, this policy addresses what you want.
Okay.
Everybody will get the same FDA-approved lunch, no matter what. And we'll add some language regarding minimums.
Okay. Ms. Dunn, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Dr. Levine, I appreciate this policy. I think it's a very good statement to be making so that people understand that the children are going to be fed. The details on the other end are fine. If you in the business office come to us with a plan, I think that would be great, because I know we're talking about setting minimums and everything. That's really only going to work at the Higgins and the high school, because the elementary schools don't have the point of sale yet. Will they have that in the fall?
Through the chair, maybe not all in the fall, but our goal this year is to put in 4. The Carroll, the Brown, the Welch, and the Center. And then the following year, put in the other 4.
Okay. And I mean, I know that the minimums, you know, any talk of money would be the same all over. It's just the notification mechanism might have to be different at the elementary level, but I think that it should still be consistent throughout. And I know you're going to have to look at it because the prices at each level are different. So you probably want to look at, you know, do you want to let them go, you know, 2 weeks, which would be quote unquote 10 meals, and then you start your reminders, as opposed to, you know, a dollar minimum is good,
Good point.
but you also need to look at the
Yep.
timeline,
Yep.
and that way figure it out. One thing I will ask for, it's funny that when I saw this come up, and there was an article recently in the Salem News, how the Salem schools are going to be having all free lunch and free breakfast, and I didn't want to spring it on the new head of the cafeteria tonight, but I would like to say that I think it is something I would love to see us look into that. We've talked about it before, and it really, to me, it is the right thing to do, because it does take away any differences for anybody. And, you know, we're nourishing their minds. We probably also need to make sure that their bodies are nourished too, because we've already seen the data that show that when the kids are well fed, they do much better on their tests. So just fair warning, that one's coming at you. But I think it would tie in with some of the problems that we've had with people falling behind. Do you have any type of just a ballpark figure of how high it may get for, or has got for people? Or I'm sure it's been a problem. I know I've read about it in other cities.
Through the chair, how high a deficit, for example, has gotten in an arrears account? You know, you all made, and Joe, you made some wonderful points about life happens, and there are things that happen that cause people to be in arrears. But quite frankly, you left out one category. There are some people that just don't want to pay.
Oh.
So, and their accounts get quite high.
Yeah.
And we have to take more and more aggressive steps.
Sure. Yeah, before it gets out of
Yeah.
hand, I understand. But,
And
thank
through
you.
the chair, I think that's a great goal for the new Director of Food Services, to take a look at what it would cost the school system to have free and reduced lunches. I'm sorry, to have free lunches
Free lunches.
and breakfasts.
Yeah.
And I can have her work on that and get you a figure within a few months of her employment.
Yeah, but I know she's got a lot to do when she comes in, but it really is something that we have talked about, we've looked into it, we've tried to do it on a small scale with the breakfast and things, and seeing someone, right on the border able to do it, it does show that it's possible. It is possible, so I think it would help a lot. And I do think it would help, too, with our food services. There's a lot of really great food being prepared, and it's a great service that we have in our schools for people to be able to eat during the day. One other question while I'm at it: if we could print out, if you could at the next meeting, or email it, either way, if we could have just a list of what a student lunch costs, what at each of the levels, and what an adult meal costs as well.
And through the chair, we can give you some examples of what they look like. What consists of an FDA-approved meal.
Right.
Yeah, well, Jared, will you put that together, please?
Because I know Parent Advisory Board, we had a great meeting where we were treated to a typical meal here at Higgins, and it was fabulous. It was very, very well done.
Ms. Dunn, do you have a quick question here? On Salem, do we know if that's a state grant, federal grant, or is the city of Salem absorbing that cost? Do we know that?
I think it was state and federal grants.
Okay.
And they put the whole thing together, and they're able to provide free breakfast and free lunch for every student in Salem next year, starting in September.
All right, great, thank you. Mr. Olympio.
Through the chair, this is a wonderful policy, Dr. Levine. I just had a question, though, on the FDA meal. What about, does that cover like alternates? I'd hate to see a child be put in a situation where they don't like the lunch, and there's another choice, and does it cover alternate lunches? And okay.
The goal is the kid's going to eat under any circumstances. So if there are 2 or 3 choices that day, whatever those FDA-approved meals are.
Okay, so there is more than one choice. Okay.
Yeah, typically, yeah.
Okay.
Good question.
Yeah.
Ms. Dunn.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this policy for first reading. We'll have to read it second time in August to make it in place, but I would like to make it for first reading.
Okay.
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, through the chair, we need this to the state.
Oh, sorry, July. We have a meeting in July.
We actually need this to the state by June 30th. This is a policy. They want to see this policy by June 30th. So if you could approve this policy and know that more information is coming.
Waive the second reading.
Please.
Yeah. So I'd like to amend my motion. I'm going to make a motion that we approve this policy and that we waive the second reading. So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Dunn, second by Mr. Rosignol. Mr. Rosignol on the motion.
Yeah, just through the chair to Dr. Levine or Ms. Mertag. Why the rush? Why does the state need this policy by June 30th?
Jared?
Through the chair, it's just something that they're requiring, and it fell off my radar. But it's something that they were requiring by 6:30. It got brought to my attention. It's just a state.
Through the chair, they're not requiring the way it's written. They're not telling us how to write it. They're requiring a policy, and we need to get this to the state. And this is the policy that I thought would fly with the school committee.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ms. Dunn.
And actually, this is very good. I'm glad they're requiring a policy because I know we've probably all seen the stories across the country where it's very different. Some places will feed the child the whole meal. Other places, after so many times, they won't feed the child. They will give them water. And some places will give them 2 slices of Wonder Bread with a piece of cheese as punishment. And that's what they don't want happening. That's, you do read about these in other states. And having something like this on the books, it just ensures that the children are going to get the full benefit of the federal lunch program. That's the kicker. You know, it's in place for a reason, and some places are circumventing that.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn, and I totally agree. For some of our students, and this is across the country, this is here in Peabody, the only meal they get during the day may be the meal that we're serving.
Exactly.
So I think it's vital, and I want to thank you, Mr. Levine, Dr. Levine, for putting this together. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor.
It was second.
Okay, so roll call vote, please. I'll vote, sure.
Mr. Rosano?
Yes.
Mr. Olympia?
Yes.
Mr. Amico?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
Thank you very much, and through the chair, we have a couple of hundred excess, what we consider to be excess textbooks in biology. Typically, when we get a request from a department head that these no longer have any value to us, we typically give them to our students who are interested in taking them home. I am asking you to declare these textbooks excess and give us permission to give them out to students who are interested.
Motion to follow the recommendation of the superintendent.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rossignol, second by Ms. Dunn on the motion. Roll call vote. Oh, I'm
one
sorry,
question.
Ms. Dunn, I'm sorry.
I think where we declare these surplus, I do think we have to send something to Mr. Doucette as well at City Hall, just so that that's covered, so the students can follow through on their budget.
I'll take care of that.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. Roll call vote.
Mr. Rosano?
Yes.
Mr. Olympia?
Yes.
Mr. Amico?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
Thank you. And in your packet is a letter from Dr. Drenhill. Dr. Drenhill is the person in charge of all of the Simon Youth Foundation efforts to establish schools throughout the country, including ours at the mall. He was here for a wonderful graduation ceremony, and we had the opportunity to have breakfast about an hour and a half before the ceremony and talked about the future and some of our successes and how proud he is of this program. He's a very nice man, very bright, and he's a very good partner to the city of Peabody. And I just want to bring to the public's attention how much Simon Properties does for us in the form of our school. They just built out another room for us and made it beautiful down there. And the mall itself is a great partner as well. So thank you to everybody that's involved in that wonderful project. Thank you to Seth Bedard and his staff for the terrific job he does on a day-to-day basis. And thank you to Dr. Dernhill and Simon Properties for investing in us.
Thank you.
And with that, you have in your packet monthly accountable unit for the 17 budget if you have any questions. And thank you letters that you directed me to send when we get donations, and those letters have been sent. And with that, I am through with my report.
Oh, great. I can move on. Mr. Rosenthal.
Through you to Mr. Stanton. So are we now final on our budget for fiscal year 2017?
Through the chair, we are not yet, because we still have to figure out what our summer payroll is, as well as all of the encumbrances that we have. We've been working on reducing those over the past month. We have until June 15th to spend FY17 numbers, and then I'll continue to work with Mr. Gingras to finalize the budget.
So how are we looking from now until the end of the fiscal year?
Right now, I think we're in good shape.
Do you foresee a surplus? Do you foresee a negative balance? Do you foresee a zero balance?
Through the chair, I'd like to answer that. We've been struggling, as you know, to get to the finish line, June 30th. We thought we would be in worse shape than we're in. I think we're in better shape than we forecasted. We can't yet tell you whether or not we'll have a little bit of surplus or a little bit in the red, but we're working very closely with Mr. Gingras, and we're quite confident that when all is said and done and everything is moved around, that we'll be at least at zero, which will be a major accomplishment, since you know all of the hundreds of thousands of dollars that added up to millions of dollars that we started the year with behind the 8 ball.
No, absolutely. And through the chair, to you, Dr. Levine, to you, Ms. Martag, and to you, Mr. Stanton, to all of the leadership team, I appreciate and understand the difficulties in this year's budget and the challenges that you have overcome to get us to this point. I just wanted to see if there was any chances of a surplus. I know next year's budget is going to be just as tight of a belt as this year's was, and my hope, I guess I will say, was if there's any surplus that we could kind of pay it forward to any outstanding bills that we have the ability to for next year's budget. I guess that's the avenue that I was hoping for.
And through the chair, any reasonable amount of money to the good, we would send to prepay sped tuitions.
Perfect.
And that's legal.
Yes.
And they've allowed us to do that in the past. We'll have a better understanding of where we are by the end of August, beginning of September. And again, I can't thank enough Mike Ingris and his office and the mayor for their ongoing support and making sure that we're okay. And they are helping us, so.
Lastly, as far as school choice monies go, how is that looking as far as out versus in and the dollar amount?
Our report for this year put us to the good $289,000. It was a little bit more money than we thought. That's good news.
Absolutely.
We believe that'll continue next year. It'll stay rather steady because the number of kids that I accept either through open enrollment or school choice will be very limited. Our classroom sizes are okay right now, but they need to pretty much stay where they are, with the exception of the high school.
Well, and some of the elementary schools on the west side of town,
And,
they
yeah, exactly.
have a lot more
That's right.
flexibility than others. Okay. Thank
Ms.
you.
Dunn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question was about the thought that if there were any surplus funds, do you need a vote of the committee tonight to give you permission to put it towards the special ed tuitions?
You know, I don't think so. I think it's past practice that we've done it in the past.
It always has been past practice.
Without a vote.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a legal avenue that allows us to do that in conjunction with working with the city.
Mm-hmm.
If I find differently, I'll come back to this table and ask you for a vote.
Okay.
Well, just on that point, we would have to approve any expenditures that were outside of a known budget, so we technically should vote on that. But I'll be honest with you, unless you're planning on spending the money on anything else except for special ed tuition, that would be the only reason I would see the need for you to come back before this board.
It would only be special ed tuition.
We can make a motion tonight anyway.
That'd be fine with me.
That way you're covered. I'd like to make a motion that in the event of any surplus, that the superintendent and his staff have our permission to pay that forward to the special education tuition. So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Dunn, second by Mr. Rossignol on the motion. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Rossignol?
Yes.
Mr. Olympia?
Yes.
Yes. All right, that brings us to written communications. Do we have any?
Yep. No, we've
Okay, we're all
already
set.
done all
Okay.
of them. Yeah.
Subcommittee reports are next on the agenda. Education Subcommittee. Is Mr. Oh, nothing true. Oh, you are reporting for him. Thank you, Ms. Bartag. Finance Subcommittee.
Nothing to report other than what we went over before.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Mr. Olympio, School Safety
Yes.
Subcommittee.
Yes, we, let's see, Dr. Levine, Ms. Murtagh, Mr. Stanton, Ms. Carpenter, Ms. Dunn, and myself met on June 22nd, I believe that was Thursday, and we just reviewed really two safety issues, two safety contracts, the Cop Sync and the Social Sentinel. And we just really reviewed where we're at in those contracts. The Cop Sync is it's an emergency alert system that's used in the classroom, and it's a year-to-year type of contract. So Dr. Levine just kind of filled us in on where we stand with that. And the Social Sentinel is a software package that monitors social media within children with the district. So we just basically wanted to get us up to speed where we stand with that.
Great, thank you, Mr. Olympio.
Yeah.
Next up is Athletics and Wellness, Mr.
Nothing to report at this time. I know that as far as the athletic director position is going, that is ongoing as far as trying to narrow down the finalists.
Great, thank you. Quality and standards, Ms. Dunn?
Nothing to report at this time.
And Ms. Dunn also on the liaison to city council and advisory boards?
Oh, thank you. The Parent Advisory Board had its last meeting of the school year last Monday, the 19th, and there were several items brought up, things that the parents would like to follow up on next year. So we started a bit of an agenda for next year, and we met some new members, and we bid farewell to some retiring members. And some of the questions that came up, and I will be contacting you, Dr. Levine, to go over these, was questions regarding the field trip buses, the policy on the use for schools for field trip buses, the issue of insurance for the PTOs. That's something I really would like to tackle now so that when they start the year, they know where they stand on that. The policy on mulch for the school playgrounds, just to see where that stands so that they know whether they have to go out and get mulch or whether it's provided. Let's see. Social media. Questions about school social media pages, how those should be handled by PTOs and by the schools themselves. There were good questions, too. Let's see. Absence calls. There were a lot of questions about the timeliness of the return when parents call their student in the morning if a student is going to be absent. This is more at the high school, that they don't get a call back. If they don't call, if they forget to call, or if their student doesn't make it to school, they don't get a call back until late in the afternoon. And parents were wondering about that because one of the good things about the absence callbacks is that if something happened to a student, that a parent thought the child had gone to school, there was more of a timely response in the event that there was an emergency. So they'd just like to know if we have any guidelines on that. So I'll be bringing that to you. One of the things about, let's see, in classrooms, this was a nice suggestion from the parents. When there are students experiencing difficulties who may be on an IEP or special needs, and their behavior, this is more at the elementary level, the behavior of that student may be something that will frighten their classmates. They're just wondering if there could be some type of a discussion in the classroom led by the teacher to explain that, Johnny's okay, it's just that he's upset, or whatever the situation is, because oftentimes what happens is the children are told, it doesn't concern you, so you don't need to worry about it, but they do worry. And just if there could be a bit of discussion about that, it might make people more aware that just because someone's different and might behave differently, it's still okay. And it's not something to be scared of, it's not something to be upset about. So they talked about that, and everyone agreed that the discussion with our special ed director was such a good one that they'd like to have her come back, and that's something that they'll bring up with her as well. They also asked differences. Do all of the schools have a kindergarten moving on, or do some have it and some don't? That was a question that came up. Some people thought that the moving on for kindergarten had been changed. Some schools were not doing a specific moving on ceremony.
My left-hand girl over here says that some have moving on ceremonies, some have picnics, some have
Just in class.
they do in class.
Mm-hmm.
So it's different probably in every school.
Okay. That was a discussion about the differences. And
Through
then
the chair, by the way.
I'm sorry.
No, what I said, I wanted to go through the chair, and I didn't say through the chair.
It's two
And
strikes
then,
against chair.
Thank you.
The parents were pleased with the 5th grade dance. They thought that was very nice, having the students get together before they come to Higgins. And then one of the biggest issues they all want to discuss, redistricting, the need for redistricting. The people who have students in the maximum size classrooms were very concerned. And they said, you know, it really is time. And they actually directed me to bring it to the school committee to say that it is time. So, anyway, we will have our first meeting of the year early in September, and we'll be working online, coming up with some agenda items. The Parent Advisory Board will have that letter prepared and ready to go out at the beginning of the year. And they're looking forward to a good time. A very good year. Lots of nice positive things that they want to work on.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Dunn. Appreciate that. Our next one is Building and Grounds. We'll be scheduling a Building and Grounds meeting for July 25th, our next meeting at 5:30. Mr. Olympio, excuse me, Mr. Rosniel.
On Buildings and Grounds, through you, Mr. Chairman, to Dr. Levine, how is the new properties or the new space that administration is going into as far as being finished? Where are we with that? I know they were paving over there, and it's coming along fantastic from the exterior. I just didn't know what you knew as far as what's going on in the interior of that facility.
Through the chair. Not as much to do internally as externally. Actually, he gave us that parking lot. That wasn't in the contract.
I knew that.
Very nice man to deal with, and he's doing a wonderful job for us. There was a question about electrical, and I did investigate that, and the only major thing that has to be done, a 220 line has to be put in for our big machine. Every other machine, I think, is 110, but that one is 220.
That's pretty easy.
There's some painting that's taking place, but basically, he expects to be able to turn over the building on July 1, and we expect to be in August 1. And we are well on our way. And I must say that Kara and Jared have done a fabulous job on tagging everything in our building that's moving. We're starting to get crates for people to pack up. We have our order in place now for the cabinets that we need. We cut our furniture expectations down by 2/3. And we have, Kara will know the name of the company, and I forget, but we have had a donation of furniture that Jared would estimate, if it were new, would be $100,000 from a company that happens to be moving. Baker & Noyes. They are an auditing, CPA type? Accounting firm. And they've been wonderful to us, and I'd like to thank them publicly. The furniture that they're giving us is first class, it's corporate, and will fit nicely into our place.
So do we need to make a motion to receive?
Not yet. I want to be able to give you we haven't taken it yet. I want to be able to give you a list.
Perfect.
And show you and thank them publicly when that's all said and done.
Excellent. Lastly on that, so with the new furniture that we're getting from this company very generously donated to us, will we end up having surplus of our own furniture on the back end?
Through the chair, significantly, yes. There's some very nice tables. There's some nice furniture in the building that we will neither need nor move.
Through the chair to you, Dr. Levine, could you have a conversation with Dan Doucette then, in anticipation of surplus, to see if there's a way that he can sell it and recoup some funding back? I know once we deem it as surplus, it's technically the city's. I'm just thinking where we're working so well with the city to try to move our departments downtown to become one centralized government. I'm wondering if we could recoup some monies on the back end from the furniture that we're...
Through the chair. We're not quite at that step yet because, as you know, principals, they have sniffed out the fact that there's furniture and stuff that they might want. They have made phone calls. Once we redistribute, we will absolutely do that.
Thank you.
All set. Anyone else? Mr. Olympio on the Special Ed Parent Advisory Board, please.
Yes, I attended CPAC's meeting on June 20th, and really the topics of conversation in that particular meeting was they're working on their workshops and speaker list for the upcoming year. And, some of the things they were talking about is just having somebody come in to explain, IEP forms and just applications and things like that that could certainly help some of the parents that have never seen some of these forms before. And then also another thing that they were talking about was a website for special education to enhance that with, so maybe that's something we can talk about over the summer. And what I was anticipating on doing is setting up, a meeting for this, for CPAC, for special education PAB. Probably we'll have the summer off, so we'll meet in September, maybe the last Tuesday of every month, where CPAC is going to meet typically on the third Tuesday of every month. And at first I was thinking about, gee, we could run the meetings together, but I don't think it's going to be very practical because they really have their schedule filled with workshops and speakers and things like that. So certainly wouldn't give parents maybe an opportunity to kind of discuss some things. So I think a separate meeting would probably work in that aspect. And I would encourage anybody to go on CPAC's website. I think they'll be working on the schedule over the summer, and that's about it.
Thank you very much.
So, through the chair, I'd like to say happy anniversary to my wife. I eventually will.
Happy anniversary.
I'll eventually see you. And I'd like to introduce Charlie. Dr. Charette has been with us now for 2 years. This is his last meeting at this table. He has only a couple of days left, and he has been working overtime in order to get the things put together that need to get put together for all of the positions that we have open. Charlie is working tirelessly with the union presidents to make sure that all contractual language has been followed regarding any potential layoffs or reductions in force. As you know, Dr. Charette has a wonderful working relationship with all of the unions and has been working very hard for us, not only the last 2 years and done wonderful things, but particularly over the last month or so, when the rubber hit the road on when the budget was passed and we really had to get moving. So I'd like to just thank my good friend, my dear friend, Charlie Charette, somebody who I will miss next year is another right-hand person, but we'll see if we can get creative about that. I know his wife is probably listening, but and I'd like to know if Charlie, you'd like to say anything, either about the report that you have or any last words for the school committee.
Just very briefly, the report that you do have at your table, it again is just a typical moment in time. It's not even accurate tonight because there have been so many changes between yesterday and today, but the reality is that we have many openings, as you can see by the form here. Basically, it's listed by position, then posting and closing date, the number of applicants we've received, who the person is that's being replaced, and filled by. And as you can see, the sad thing about filled by is that it's pretty empty right now. So we're in the process of filling those positions. Some real critical ones are being filled even as we speak. The athletic director position, we've recommended finalists to the superintendent. Director of guidance is not on here, but it should be. That's another important position that will be filled ASAP. We filled a couple of principalships, as you know, in the last few months, and we have an additional principal that needs to be replaced. Anyhow, so, we're moving forward, and you will be getting reports like this, hopefully on a more regular basis than I've been able to give it to you as the months go ahead. Last but not least, I'd really just like to thank all of you. It's been really an honor and a privilege to spend 2 years here in Peabody. I quite frankly, and most people know that, I wasn't looking for work at the time when Herb called and asked me if I would come in and pitch in, but it's been a really wonderful experience. Folks here in Peabody are really special. The kids are wonderful, the teachers, great staff, great administration. And, for me, it's been just a lot of fun and really meaningful. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank
Doctor.
you.
Ms. Dunn?
I want to thank you, Charlie. It really has been a joy to work with you. And one of the nice things has been just your mannerisms. Word filters back to us. People have really enjoyed working with you and interviewing with you, and you've been a really, really nice face for our human resource department, and Just wanted you to know how much we appreciate that, and now we will let you retire again.
Thank you very much.
Maybe.
The good thing, too, though, is that we have a wonderful person coming in, filling the shoes and the chair, and we'll keep the Human Resources Program moving forward, and that's really exciting as well.
That's great.
Sorry to see you go. but
Thank you.
Enjoy your retirement.
Thanks.
Thank you, Doctor. And on that note, I know we're ending the fiscal year on the 30th, and I just want to thank this group right here, who's very special, and we've worked very, very hard this year to get some great things accomplished. I also want to thank the principals, teachers, staff at the schools, the parents, and the PTO for always pitching in. We know a lot of the schools where parents are just giving, and not complaining about it and doing whatever they can for our students. So I want to thank the whole community. As Doctor said, it's a great and it's a special place to live and it's a special place to work. So I just want to thank the Peabody community. And with that, we can end the meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Great job. Thank you.